I am very happy that COVID was over, because we'll even be charged very high for air, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And to me, it is very, very clear that the way President Ruto is running this country is not different from the preaching of Pastor Mackenzie of Shakahola. That Kenya in 10 years will be a country you can't believe it is. But for you to get those 10 years, you have to kill yourself today. Just like Pastor Mackenzie was telling people to kill themselves so that they can have a very good future. They have made parliament look like a national choir, where people have to speak in one voice, and they have to respond to the choir master and the way he moves his hands, and they have to dance to that music. It is very, very, very sad.
Hello there and welcome to Jadol Kabiro, unfiltered conversations that come to you truthfully, honestly and unbiased with different political guests. This conversation, I say, are unfiltered because we only comply with the Constitution of Kenya and YouTube community guidelines. I'm seated next to the former Member of Parliament of Kiambu constituency, Jude Njomo, and he's going to tell me about the state of politics and governance in this country. There are talks that President William Ruto is becoming a dictator. People are talking about that. The cost of living is worse than it was before. People are talking about that. And also President Uhuru Kenyatta seemingly not to want to leave the political sphere. Should he go and step aside and let Ruto govern as President Kibaki did for him? That is a conversation I'm having at the magnificent home of former Kiambu constituency MP Jude Njomo. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you.
I'm grateful that you've invited us and you've allowed us to sit at your place and to have this conversation about the country. How have you been though?
Very well, thank you. We've been well. Just observing how things are going. We can say we have been enjoying our leave. And so far, so good.
Enjoying your leave, does this mean you're planning to get back into the office of the Member of Parliament?
Well, you see, like any other Kenyan politician, once you are out of politics, it's very, very difficult for you to be engaged in any kind of, formal employment unless you concentrate in your own business. Of course, you can't employ me, then you'll be asking, Mheshimiwa, have you finished the task that I had given you? You feel uncomfortable. And I think that is how many Kenyans would feel. Secondly, to me, going into politics was a call, for a particular purpose, for a particular task, to serve the people of Kiambu and to serve the people of Kenya. So if the call will still be there in 2027, I will answer to the call. So I've left the options open. Yes.
When I called you and told you, because I had hosted you somewhere else before, and I told you I want us to talk, it's because of this photo. Let me share it on screen. The photo of you together with former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, Azimio leader, President Uhuru Kenyatta, meeting Kiambu leaders. And I've sparked back the conversation about President Uhuru Kenyatta. Maybe you'll not tell us what you talked about, but I just want to know, is it okay for the president, former president, to be seen to be playing politics? He's actually the leader of Azimio la Umoja. Is it okay for him to do as he's doing? Because the calls are, look, your predecessors decided to leave the space for the one who has come in. Why don't you just let President Ruto govern? Is Uhuru coming back?
Well, yes, we paid a visit to the Right Honorable Raila Odinga a week ago as leaders from Kiambu. And we did this because we have been observing the ongoings in politics. If you remember, we participated in the public participation of the finance bill in Parliament as leaders from Kiambu. We participated in the National Dialogue Committee as leaders of Kiambu. We also at one time had a media conference in Kiambu when the Ruto government was still very young. And there was a lot of agitation, people wanted to act, they were not happy about what was happening. And I remember we went and we wanted to know which side to take as leaders of Kiambu. And after a day-long deliberation, we had a media conference where we said, this government is still young. Let us give them time. We know what is going on is not the right thing, but let us give them time so that they can change.
You actually, people that said, let's give Ruto time.
We had said that at one time. We had said that the Ruto government was like about 3-4 months old, and we were feeling it is too soon. They have not even set their offices right. So we're saying, let's give them time. We know we were not happy about the way the elections went and all that, but then we were feeling it is too early to start fighting. So we have been observing and we have been actively involved in politics. Now we have waited for over 1 year. Things are not becoming any better. We are coming from bad to worse. Taxations are becoming higher and higher. In fact, what has surprised me most is that some of the things that we have been taking for granted, like me having a cow at home, now it is going to be charged. If the bill that has been put in parliament is going to pass. Even having some chicken at home, I'll be charged 50 shillings per year per chicken. Even having a horse or having, we are going to, even though, I am very happy that COVID was over, because we'll even be charged very high for air, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So things have become so tough. Now we had to sit down again as Kiambu leaders and ask ourselves, have we given enough time? Is it time we started complaining? And we thought so, yes. We need to start putting government to task so that we don't completely, ruin the economy of our people. Our people are the ones who are doing business here in this Nairobi. Most of the shops are closed. If you wanted a shop sometimes back in areas like Nyamakema, Gikomba, you'd pay 1 million, 2 million as royalty. As what do you call it?
Lease.
Yeah?
Lease for a year.
No. They call it goodwill.
Oh, goodwill.
You pay like 1 million or 2 million shillings for goodwill. Today, shops are out there to let. And the landlord will give you the shop and give you 1 month free to renovate. There is no goodwill these days because businesses are dead.
So
we went after thinking of all this, we said no, we must now start putting government to task. We must do what President Ruto said we must do, play our role as the effective opposition. He said he wants an effective opposition. So after the deliberation, we thought, who can we consult about being in the opposition? We in Mount Kenya have been in government for quite some time. We don't know really how to play opposition politics. Yeah. So we thought Baba has been in opposition long enough. He have the most experienced opposition leader in the country. So we sought an appointment with him and he hosted us in his house, and that is what we went to talk about. So
every time you're talking about Kiambu leaders, this includes President Uhuru Kenyatta?
President Uhuru Kenyatta is not a Kiambu leader. President Kenyatta is a national leader.
Okay.
In fact, he came to this meeting not on our invitation. But when Right Honorable Raila was receiving Kiambu visitors, he also called, like when you can have visitors in your house, you also call your friends to receive your visitors.
Oh.
So he invited some national people in the meeting. He invited his deputy leader in the Azimio, La Umoja, the Oparanya. He invited some ODM operatives from also within Kiambu, the Mobingaro and another Wakiri. He also invited the former president, as his guest.
Not as a person who...
Not as a Kiambu, he was not part of our delegation.
Okay.
He was one of the visitors that we found.
So you get into Raila's home, you find Uhuru Kenyatta, President Uhuru Kenyatta. What runs through your mind when you see him? Does this mean that you are talking about national politics and his involvement in it? Or was he more of just a guest who's just listening?
Apart from talking the politics that we were talking about, we were also building acquaintances and having a cup of tea together. So it was more of a social thing. Then we talked the things that we wanted to talk. It was not a surprise to find him there because we know they are friends, apart from being in politics together. So he was there as a friend of Baba. and we talked.
So then my question is this: should Uhuru be playing politics? Because I think he was in Makueni, Makueni, I believe, and he told them, look, these people, all they seem to talk about is me. I'm out of politics. During Jubilee NDC, he said, they keep mentioning me. They want me back, and I had almost decided to stay away from politics. Should he stay away from politics? That was my main question for Uhuru Kenyatta.
You know, I think it's a very difficult question for him. And I really sympathize with him, because the Kenya Kwanza government have been really using the name of the former president as a scapegoat for the inactivity. Every time they have not been able to perform, they always think, oh, we found empty coffers. Oh, money has been misused. Oh, this has happened. Oh, this was done by Kenyatta government. He has been quiet all this time. He has not been commenting. But they are the ones who have been poking poking his nose all the time, saying that. When President Kebake took over from President Moi, the economy of Kenya was completely dilapidated. There was no money. In fact, it was so bad that even the World Bank and the IMF were no longer loaning Kenya. But Kebake did not go sit in his desk and going to public rallies complaining that he has found empty coffers. He campaigned knowing very well that he's campaigning during a time when there's no money in the treasury. Yeah? And he knew that because there is no money, these are the steps that he's going to take. And one of them, he gave us 6 months. And he told us, if you have not been paying your taxes, and you know you have not been paying your taxes, I'm giving you 6 months. Go to Times Tower and start paying your taxes. Yeah? If you don't pay after 6 months, we will look for you. And when we get you, we are going to charge you all what you have not been paying. And within 1 year, the collection of taxes increased from 700 million, I think, to about 1.5 trillion.
Oh.
You know? And people did that voluntarily. So we are tired of this crying baby at you, we found empty coffers. When they went out there campaigning, they were part of the government. No money can be spent by a government without going through the cabinet. Most of those people in the government now were in that cabinet. They knew exactly what was happening. It's cabinet which makes a decision of when to borrow and when not to borrow. The president, the current president, was the deputy president then. And the deputy president is the one who heads interministerial committees. And each committee, each ministry takes its financial requirements to that committee. So they know every cent that was borrowed. So when they talk that, we found empty coffers, they are part of emptying the coffer. They knew very well it was empty. So when they went round looking for votes, they knew they were looking for votes to take a government with empty coffers, if we have to believe what they're telling us. And they should have known that they gave us a manifesto. And they told us we are going to do A, B, C, D. What did they think they are going to do that A, B, C, D with? If they knew that the coffers were empty. So let them not act surprised that they opened the door after getting elected. They opened the door to the State House and found, oh, there is no furniture. They were in that State House. They knew the state of State House. They knew the state of Treasury. So that let them not act as if they are surprised.
When you hear the president, then he was deputy president, saying they have been sidelined, they don't know what is happening. There were even talks, I think Mutai Nguni went ahead and said the deputy wasn't using some toilet inside the State House, the one that was reserved for VIPs. It was as if he was being mistreated, and therefore Kenyans should believe that they really did not know what was happening in Uhuru's administration. What would you say about that?
I would say that is not the correct position. I was a member of parliament in the 12th parliament, and actually 11th and 12th parliament, and I would say from my own observation, you know, they were all involved. In fact, I think President Uhuru Kenyatta really delegated a lot of powers to deputy president, a lot of powers, including even going out there. I would go for Harambe's. We get the president has sent the deputy will give his contribution, and then they say this now has come from the president. You know, so how would you believe that he was sidelined when he was even being sent with contributions to Harambe's? The cabinet was working as it is supposed to work. His office was working until the campaign time. That is when now we started seeing a real difference between the president and his deputy. Otherwise, he was actively involved.
So when you see,
even when we were being called for parliamentary group meetings, they were both there.
PGs, they were both there.
Yes, they were both there. They were working together.
So when you see the president coming out, seemingly as if he's trying to get into politics, but he has some laxity, though. Would you say it is Ruto's administration smoking him out? Is this the case? They want
that was what I had said earlier, that they are really poking his nose, you know, because he has been quiet, he has not been saying anything. But they keep on saying that, oh, you have done this, your people have done this, you know, the state capture and all that. And he has not been acting. But what I'm saying is, just by meeting us does not mean that he has become politically active. By him going to a church does not mean that he has become politically active. He's a Christian. He can go to any church. You know, Kalonzo Musyoka is his friend. So if he takes him to a church, Harambee, in his location, what's wrong with that? In any case, many Kenyans love President Uhuru. And they don't mind if he passes somewhere to greet them. The problem is when you keep on challenging him, he will respond when he's talking to people, or when you people in the news, when you go and meet him, he will respond to the allegations that are being put forward. But that having been said, even if he wanted to become actively involved in politics, what's the problem with that? He's the leader of Azimio. He's a leader in Jubilee. He has the right, constitutional and otherwise, to participate in politics. The only thing he cannot do is he cannot become a president of Kenya again, unless we change our constitution. But he can become any position. In fact, I think if he wanted to become a member of parliament, the constitution does not stop him from going to Gatondo and becoming a member of parliament. Nothing stops him from participating actively in politics. Our law is very clear about that. But he has not done that yet. He's just been playing his role as a good Kenyan citizen.
Okay. Two things you've said. One, you had decided to give the current administration time. And you said it is 3 months down the line, let us just give them some time. And two, you have also said, unless we change the constitution, President Uhuru can come back, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the National Dialogue Committee recommendation, and Raila said some of these things, they need to pass through a referendum, right? But let's start with this. Cost of living now, as you said, it was one of the issues that could not be agreed upon, whether it is reducing VAT, whether it's looking at housing levy. When you look at how President William Ruto is trying to change this country, I said when it comes to housing levy, it must pass by whatever means, whether the court put it to a halt. What would you say his economic way of looking at cost of living reads from your side?
I will look at it from two different perspectives. One, and that was one of the main reasons that we really wanted to talk to Honorable Raila Odinga and ask him. The main reason of the National Dialogue Committee was to lower the cost of living. Now we understand you are going to sign a document, and in this document, the cost of living has not been addressed. Why would you sign such a document? And he was very, very clear about it, that the Azimio had come up with proper write-up with solutions that can help lower the cost of living. And they presented it to National Dialogue Committee. The KK part of the dialogue committee was stubborn and said this is a Kenya Kwanza government. We have been elected by the people based on a manifesto that we placed to them. So there is no way we are going to take your manifesto and put it in our government. If you want your manifesto to be put into action, go and get elected. So they were stubborn, they don't want. So they have been given the solutions on how to lower the cost of living, but they don't want to take it. Because they have their own objective of what they want to do. So they refused completely, according to the information that I got, they refused completely on the proposals that were put on the table. So, and that is why all the other items about constitution of IEBC, interference with other political parties, and all the other items were agreed upon. But that particular item, they refused.
From where you sit, why do you think they can refuse proposals that can change where we are at as a country?
You know, I told you earlier that we had done a presentation to the Finance Committee during the passing of the Finance Bill. And to me, it is very, very clear that the way President Ruto is running this country is not different from the preaching of Pastor Mackenzie of Shakahola, where, you know, you are promised beautiful things, a very good life in future. He told us during the 2 days ago during the Madaraka Day, that Jamhuri Day, that Kenya in 10 years will be a country you can't believe it is. But for you to get those 10 years, you have to kill yourself today. Just like Pastor Mackenzie was telling people to kill themselves so that they can have a very good future.
You're comparing Ruto with Pastor Mackenzie?
I am comparing the administration, the principles of what we are having today. And we are saying the taxes are killing us. Yeah? These levies of housing levy. For example, many people are asking that if we pay the levy, you'll have to get some kind of mortgage to pay the loan.
Yes.
Most of the people, because now the same thing has come back to parliament, so that those who were not included, and these are the Juakali people, the border people, the Mama Bogas, you know, the hustlers now have to pay 1.5% of their levy.
Yes.
So how are they going to pay it? The KRA people, and they have been doing rounds in Kiambu. They have been going from house to house, shop to shop, taking your M-Pesa statement, you know, seeing how many cows you have, how many chicken you have.
They're doing that?
They have been doing that from house to house, kiosk to kiosk. In fact, some people are closing their kiosk now because they see how much they are making and they know how much these guys are demanding. They can't afford it. Now we have been told even this 1.5%, you have to pay even if you are a shop owner. You have to pay even if you are a Mama Boga. So they will come and assess and they tell you you'll be paying this much every month. Yeah? So, after you have paid, when will you get this house? Can you afford to get that house even if it is 2 million shillings or 3 million shillings as Mama Boga? Will you be able to buy that house? And this money is not refundable. So all that we shall be doing is doing harambe for people to own houses. And we shall be watching them coming to our areas, you know, to occupy the houses that have been built by our money. And we cannot be able to afford it. And we have experienced this because that is what happened to our education system. During the Moi era, our schools, which were day schools, and were educating our children, especially in Kiambu, these schools were converted to boarding school, politely. We didn't see any mischief. They became boarding school, and you know, our children now who are walking to school now could board. And those who could not board, the same school had day and boarding. Eventually, slowly, it was changed to compulsory boarding. And now, the schools then were changed from being a district school to being an extra county school. When it is extra county, it could only take 20% of students from our area. And 80% came from outside. So the same schools that we did Harambe, the same schools that we built were now taken from us by other people. And we watch them even today coming to get an education from our institutions, and our children are not being educated. And it is really, really affected. And that is why when I was elected in parliament, my first task was to start rebuilding day schools. And I'm happy because I built 6 new day schools. Because our transition rate from class 8 to Form 1 was 47%. So 43% were not going to high school. So we had to take action. Now we are seeing the same kind of scenario being restarted now, where we are going to give out our vacant land to build this free housing. Then people will come and occupy the house. And you saw we are also business people. Most of the people in Kiambu, even who own a small house, they have 1 room at the back or 2 rooms, which they use for rental to subsidize the family, business. So those are also going to be affected because they will not be having customers anymore.
What strategy then are you seeing? You're not seeing at all salvation in Ruto's administration. Is that what you're saying? Everything they're trying to do, they will end up hurting those that elected them. Is this the case?
What I'm saying is there are promises that were made during the campaign. And these promises are not being kept. One thing, we were promised that the cost of living is going to go down. They are no longer talking about this. When the government told us now, as part of what we want to do, is to have a government-to-government kind of deal to bring in oil. Yeah, so that we can bring down the cost of oil and also stabilize the dollar exchange rate. Look at it now. We have the highest cost of oil in Africa. No other country. In fact, Uganda now have stopped importing their diesel or their fuel through Mombasa, because it's the most expensive thing that they can do. They are now going through Tanzania. Look at the rate of the dollar. So what they promised us is not what is happening. Now they are explaining that there were shortages. They were doing the government to government to clear shortage. We've never had shortage of fuel in the country. Only maybe on the eve of the day when they are supposed to change prices, there is some reduced supply of diesel, because there are some people holding the commodity. But we've never had a shortage of diesel in the country. Yes, we have had power failures, nationwide power failures, but we've not had, if I can remember well, any shortage of fuel.
Before I finally ask you the last question, you've talked about blackouts. What do you read from these blackouts? Are the CSs incompetent? Talk about CS Murkomen, CS Chirchir. They're all saying that it was because of the previous administration. I think it's Gachagua says the backup generators that are in JKIA were fake from the previous administrators. What should Ruto do to, it's the third time. I think it's Larry Madoe says he travels to over 50 international airports. He has never seen it's happening in our JKIA. What should Ruto do for this?
I have also not seen a leaking airport. It's a first one for Kenya. And I think action needs to be taken. I think there's total incompetence. Total incompetence in the system. I'm a well-trained electrician, and I know much about electricity. And for us to get a national power failure, it means some people are not doing their work. When countries like Ethiopia are having excess power supply to their country, I don't see why we should be having power failures at today's time. Day and time, and national power failure. We have well-trained, we don't even need to import engineers. We have well-trained engineers within our country, So I really don't know what is happening. I don't know whether it is sabotage. I don't know whether some people are on go slow or something, or somebody is not happy about the work. But what is surprising is, when we had the first power failure in the national international airport, the head of the company had to go. He had to go.
So this is what you're...
The same thing has happened again. But they're saying now the head is innocent. Is it because of the name? Is it because of his name or where he comes from? Was the first power blackout maybe happening so that they can change the CEO? People are having many questions.
There's a lot of mischief when it comes to these things.
All perceived mischief. A lot of, once you lose trust in a system, whatever happens, you really have to ask yourself many questions. Because why should you treat the same, treat is one scenario, but your reaction are two different things for the same scenario. And that is the question everybody is asking himself.
Finally, let me ask you this. All of this is happening in the country. Cost of living seems... We have now been told to wait for 10 years, right? So that
is what I'm calling the Shakahola principle.
The Shakahola principle. What do you foresee in the near future if we continue acting the way we have been as an administration, as a government? What do you foresee?
We were hopeful that maybe some of the promises that were made during the elections would yield fruits. But right now I have completely lost hope, because I have not seen any goodwill in fulfilling some of those promises. I have lost hope because some of the people who have been placed in positions of authority have displayed total lack of understanding of why they're in the positions that they have been. I have lost hope because we have members who have been elected in Parliament and in Senate to represent our people, to negotiate for our people, to represent our people. And they have completely forgotten why they are in Parliament. They have made Parliament look like a national choir, where people have to speak in one voice. And they have to respond to the choir master and the way he moves his hands and they have to dance to that music.
Oh,
it is very, very, very sad when we see that some of the projects that were being done in our areas have been stopped, and those funds have been channeled to other areas for projects which had already started, and nobody is talking about them. It is a very, very sad day for Kenya. Very, very sad. I was hoping that by the end of first year, many governments which go to power, they say within 100 days we shall have done all this. And there is nothing really much we can show after over 1 year of the Kenya Kwanza government about what has been done.
They are very proud of the Hustler Fund. They're very proud, saying people have invested, people are getting money, people are doing businesses. Maybe just for a minute, what do you think about the Hustler Fund?
I was trying to follow some write-up of people who were trying to contact those people who were being said to have been very successful in Hustler Fund. Unfortunately, they were saying they were not able to get them. Yes, we have seen what has been quoted, but I'm yet to meet somebody who tells me I've been taking loan in Hustler Fund and this is what it has done to my life. I've not yet met. I'm yet to meet. But I have met many people who were having loans with commercial banks and they were paying 15% or 14% interest rate, and now they are paying over 20% interest. Yeah, and they are wondering, am I ever going to pay this loan? Because if you had planned on a business at 15%, and now you're being asked to pay at 24%, something is going to go very wrong. And if our government can become very, very serious, because our government is the biggest borrower from our commercial bank. They just stop borrowing. Instead of giving us so many funds here and there, let the banks, and this happened during the Kebaki time, the government stopped borrowing from commercial banks. And the commercial banks brought down their interest rate. In fact, they started, if you were old enough then, they started doing tents outside supermarkets, trying to get more customers and enticing them to come and get loans. And they'll get loans and go and do business. That time it will not matter whether you are a hustler, whether you are young or old. Anybody who wants loan, he will be facilitated. If our government can stop borrowing from our local banks, because now they are borrowing, putting that money in Hustler Fund and now letting the people borrow the money. Let them stop borrowing from local banks. Let people go and the local banks are going to be our Hustler Fund. We are going to borrow from those banks and we are going to do business. Our young people are going to borrow money and buy borders. They will borrow money and start kiosks. They will buy money and do their business. There will be booming business in the country. I am not saying Hustler Fund is bad.
But you're saying...
I have not felt, personally, I have not felt...
And the people you've asked.
Yeah, the people have asked, and I can claim to be well networked. The people have asked. I have not really met people who have who claim they are that happy that they have benefited from that.
I don't want to end this show in a very sad manner, because you've said you're not a hopeful man right now. What is your message to Kenyans thinking, well, the MP Jude Jomo is just telling us, oh, we're all doomed. What is your message to them? Is there a light at the end of this?
Tighten your belt.
Yeah? Tighten
your belt. Tighten your belt. You know, because things are not that good from my own view. But I am very, very happy because God is on our side. We have the El Nino. The rains have done very well. The maize are doing very well. So even if the maize flour price goes up, at least you can go at your kitchen garden and you'll have something to eat.
Thank you so much.
So God is there for us.
Thank you so much for making time for me. It has been a very good conversation with Jude Jomo, MP Kiambu. I hope we'll have you here.
Former member.
Former member. Yes. You're running with Jubilee.
Yes.
And then hopefully you'll be back. Hopefully you'll be back in 2027. We've talked about that, but until we come again, we have these conversations. They've given us a very good insight about what the politics in this country mean and how we can change this country. That has been Jude Jomo. Thank you for tuning in. Until we do talk again, this has been Jel Kibro Unfiltered. I hope you have yourself a lovely rest of your day.